All right, who's ready to talk some 49ers intel? Here on the Players' Day Off, it is not a day off for discussing what's about to come. San Francisco has been waiting to play for a little while now. 5-3, the bye week is beyond us, or past us, I guess I should say. And the 49ers resume practice tomorrow after this Players' Day Off as they prepare for Jacksonville. Team is going to be here on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Friday's practice is a little bit earlier than normal, so they can fly out to the East Coast. Obviously, they're going to lose 3 hours on the cross-country trip. Saturday walkthrough in Jacksonville. Sunday game day in Jacksonville. Another reason for the earlier 49ers practices this week, and they're practicing earlier on Thursday as well, is because it is an early body clock start, 10 a.m. Pacific time in Jacksonville on Sunday. The 49ers had an early body clock start game in week 1 at Pittsburgh. They had another one in week 6 in Cleveland. One went better than the other. They beat Pittsburgh, and they beat them badly. And they obviously did not play well against the Cleveland Browns. They lost that game, but they were in position to win it. The field goal, though, at the end from Jake Moody did not go through. I think the marquee matchup in this game, and we're going to delve deep into the matchup here, so make sure that you bring some of your questions. I'm going to wait for the crowd to get a little bit bigger before I take a look at the comment section for questions. But the marquee matchup is that this is the number one 49ers offense in terms of DVOA. That's defense adjusted value over average, against the number 3 Jaguars defense. DVOA is a more sophisticated way to measure things than raw yardage or just points scored. You actually get to see, okay, wait, does the 49ers offense deserve the blame for some of these losses, or does the defense deserve more of the blame? Because you're going to look at down and distance. You're going to look at efficiency of each gain. Does a 7-yard gain mean more if it's 3rd and 6 versus if it's 3rd and 10? Yes, the 7-yard gain that converts the first down means a lot more. DVOA is going to take that into account, and it's also going to measure the strength of the opposing defense. Anyway, or offense, if you're looking at that on the other side of the coin. Anyway, the 49ers, their splits are number 1 offense, number 15 defense, and number 22 special teams. So the 49ers have been an offense-driven team, which is the first time in a long time, the first time in the Kyle Shanahan era, in fact, that they've been a purely offense-driven team. I would say that they came close in 2022, and in 2021, actually, we can say that they were an offense-driven team when the defense was going through its big struggles. But the thing is, the offense was also going through struggles, especially with giveaways at around that time. I still remember the Week 9 game against the Arizona Cardinals in 2021. Defense got completely smeared. 49ers passed the ball well. I think Garoppolo went for 350, but they fumbled away 2 balls. George Kittle fumbled one away after a big explosive gain over the middle. Then there was another one, probably a running back fumble, although I can't remember off the top of my head. Anyway, the offense was not holding up its end of the bargain either at that time. And that's why the 49ers were 3-5. This year, again, number 1 offense, number 15 defense for the 49ers, and then number 22 special teams. The special teams rating is not nearly as consequential because it's a smaller portion of the game, but the 49ers still want to get that better. If you want a comparison, when the 49ers were firing on all cylinders to close last season over the 12-game win streak, they were top 3 in offense and defense, and they were top 5 in special teams. So that was complementary football at its best, all 3 phases of the game firing. Right now, over the first 8 games of the season, the 49ers have truly only had the offense firing. I get it. The defense was doing better in weeks 1 through 5, but I will say that there were cracks in the 49ers defensive profile even while they were winning. What do I mean by that? Well, I was saying it back in, I think, week 2, maybe even week 3. The 49ers run defense has not been as good as previous years. In fact, it's tumbled from the NFL's elite to below average. And I think that the 49ers' bad run defense actually was concealed by their explosive offense in weeks 1 to 5. You get ahead in games, opponents have to abandon the run. You don't see exactly how bad the 49ers run defense is. It's like somebody put a flashlight up to all the cracks once the games got close in week 6 against the Cleveland Browns. And boom, the Browns rushed for $160 against the 49ers in that win. Then the Vikings, the 49ers couldn't set a proper edge consistently against the Vikings. That was a loss for San Francisco. And then finally, the Cincinnati Bengals, they just obliterated the 49ers. You know, the Bengals game, that one was the ugliest out of all of them. That was also the one that the 49ers played on a short week coming from the Central Time Zone. Cincinnati was exiting their bye week, so they were nice and fresh. So the 49ers looked tired. They were beaten up, and the defense just got worked. I still remember Joe Mixon running over Dre Greenlaw. You don't see Dre Greenlaw getting trucked all too often, but that happened in the game against Cincinnati. So the 49ers defense had been exposed, their weaknesses, their deficiencies on full display. They didn't hold up their end of the bargain in weeks 7 and 8. The bye week has happened. The 49ers also have to play a rested Jacksonville team. That's not a break for the 49ers, but I mean, it is a break in terms of their own rest. And they were exhausted against Cincinnati. They should be fresh, but so will Jacksonville here in week 10. It's going to be fun. And the headlining matchup, well, I mean, I've been talking about the 49ers defense. That part of it is important to the overall equation. But I think the headlining matchup is going to be that number one 49ers offense that really fueled this team throughout the first 5 weeks of the season to mask the defense. They're going to want to deliver the same kind of performance so they can hide some of those 49ers defensive flaws again, allow the 49ers defense some runway to fix those flaws, just like 2021. But that San Francisco offense is going to be going against the number 3 Jags defense. Josh Allen, not the quarterback for the Bills, the pass rusher, the 255-pounder for Jacksonville. He lines up, I would say, over 90% of time over left tackle. So that brings up the big update for this game. We don't have a firm analysis yet or a firm prognosis for Trent Williams, but we should by Thursday have an indicator of which way this is going. Williams has been out since after the Cleveland game with the ankle injury that he suffered during that loss to the Browns. If Josh Allen, with his 9 sacks, is working against left tackle, this is a game where the 49ers are going to want a healthy Trent Williams. Keyword is healthy, because you don't want to compromise Trent Williams. Let me put this straight. Jalen Moore has actually not been bad for the 49ers at left tackle. In fact, I think it's time for me to put my offense analysis up on the screen, because the offensive line for the 49ers, there's a little bit of a misconception about Jalen Moore. The issue has actually been with the 49ers starters from center to right tackle, and it hasn't really been with their backup left tackle. Now, there has been the issue of not having the cheat code named Trent Williams for the run game. But as far as pass protection goes, I think the 49ers have held their own with Jalen Moore, even though he's gone up against some good edge rushers here over the past 2 weeks. The thing is that Josh Allen might be cut from an even different cloth than who Jalen Moore was facing before, and the 49ers want to establish that run game. But my midseason evaluation of the 49ers offense is ready, and here is the look at the 49ers offensive line. Blue is good, red is bad. At left tackle, you see Trent and you see Jalen Moore. Pass block efficiency, Jalen Moore actually in the smaller sample ranked higher than Trent Williams. I don't think that would keep up over a longer sample, but it's still significant that over his 2 games, we've seen Trent Williams we've seen Jalen Moore in the blue. Number 5 in pass blocking efficiency, if his scores extrapolated amongst those who have enough snaps to qualify. The drop-off is in run blocking from number 7 to number 27. Again, Trent Williams is a cheat code. The run game was working when he was in. It hasn't been working ever since he's exited. Josh Allen is a player who's wrecked games this year. I remember the Thursday night game in the Superdome. We saw the Jacksonville Jaguars go in there and just terrorize the Saints with Josh Allen coming off of left tackle. So if Jalen Moore has to start, it's going to be another trial by fire for him. If Trent Williams plays at not 100%, it's going to be a major trial by fire for him, because out of what we've seen over the past few seasons, Trent, when he's not at 100%, is not the Trent Williams that everybody knows and loves. The Trent Williams that's going to be headed to the Hall of Fame. Left tackle is going to be a major, major pressure point for the 49ers in this game. They're going to have to show that they can overcome that pressure from Jacksonville. You look at the rest of the 49ers line, this right here to me is the big issue, and that's the interior. Jake Brendel has taken a step back this year. He was number 4 in pass blocking efficiency out of about 30 centers last season. That earned him a contract extension. Well, he's down to number 23 this year. The run blocking grade also in the red. Spencer Burford, number 47 out of about 60 guards in pass blocking efficiency. The run block grade has been a little bit better for Burford at number 32. And Colton McKivitz, well, the pass blocking efficiency is better than Mike McGlinchey's in Denver this year. He's number 44. McKivitz is out of 60 tackles. McGlinchey is about number 52. But both pass blocking and run blocking have been below average for Colton McKivitz. You look at this defensive front for Jacksonville, and it's really, really interesting to me because they run that 3-4 and Josh Allen is in the middle. But you also will notice that they're a little long, and I mean, I shouldn't say a little long because that sounds, I mean, they're tall. They're not little up front. They're tall up front, but they're not as stocky up front. And I'm specifically talking about the nose tackle in the middle of this Jacksonville defense. I mean, let me pop open a depth chart for you just to illustrate how this 3-4 works for Jacksonville. Let's get this up on the screen. You have Josh Allen on the outside, and he's obviously a problem. Here we go. Jaguars depth chart. You have a very balanced defense behind that with the linebackers to the safeties all the way to Darius Williams at cornerback. But what you also have, and I think that this is a potentially exploitable weakness for the 49ers, is this. Right here, right in the middle. Folorunso Farukasi. He's 6'4", about 318 pounds. Now, those of you who know typical interior D-line measurements, especially in a 3-4, will know that that nose tackle is usually not 6'4". That nose tackle is usually going to be 6'1", maybe 6'2". What you want is that lower to the ground frame. You want a fire hydrant in the middle. You want somebody that could gobble up those blocks, just create a rigid interior, has the leverage because he's got lower leverage to create problems for an interior run game. When you look up and down this Jacksonville defense, you see dependable talent everywhere. From Josh Allen rushing from the edge, Trayvon Walker is the bookending edge rusher, to the inside linebacker positions, Devin Lloyd and Foyesade Olokun. They've combined for 10 pass breakups, which is really good at linebacker. Then you go to safety, Rayshon Jenkins, Andrew Wingard, Andre Sisco. All of these guys have made plays, and they've kept big plays in front of them. Jacksonville's actually limited explosive plays better than any team in the NFL. Then to the cornerback position, Darius Williams, you see a really, really solid defense for Jacksonville. But what you don't see is fire hydrant type of stoppage at that nose tackle position. And to me, that's extremely interesting because the 49ers have struggled in the way that I've illustrated up front on the interior. And they're not going to have Aaron Banks. So Aaron Banks is the only interior lineman that's fared well this year, at least in pass blocking efficiency. The run block grade hasn't been great. Aaron Banks has got the turf toe, so he's going to be out. It's going to be Feliciano, a struggling Jake Brendel, and a struggling Spencer Burford against a Jacksonville interior that is longer in Farukasi, sorry about that. That's longer in Farukasi and less stocky than the typical interior that the 49ers have gone up against in the 3-4. So I wonder entering this game if the 49ers are going to be able to kind of get out of their slump along the interior line as far as setting up for the run game, as far as blocking on the inside. And I mean, with or without Trent Williams, this is something that's going to be really, really important. And I think that this is a potential edge that the 49ers can develop. We will see. To me, that's the matchup when you look at the 49ers offense against the Jacksonville defense at the epicenter of it that people won't be paying close attention to because we're talking center, left guard, right guard against the nose tackle, but it's going to be the one that the 49ers definitely need to win. And then obviously we talk about the big one at left tackle, Jalen Moore or Trent Williams against Josh Allen. Now, the big picture is that Jacksonville runs a whole heck of a lot of cover 3. So you go up and down this Jacksonville defense, and I already mentioned Josh Allen, 9 sacks, and Trayvon Walker. Devin Lloyd, Olokun, And, you look at just the linebackers with their pass breakups, they've been decent in coverage. And we know that the 49ers try to exploit linebackers in coverage, and they could probably exploit these linebackers as well, but they have to be on balance to exploit these linebackers. The team that plays this downhill is the one that's going to have the advantage. There's a reason why the 49ers offense doesn't look nearly as stable when the run game is not working, because they're not playing downhill. Brock Purdy's done a lot of sensational stuff. Number 2 in QBR this year. I don't think he's really slowed down over the course of the past 3 weeks. He has thrown those picks, yes, but he hasn't slowed down as far as delivering those explosive plays, as far as converting some of the big third downs. He's making all of the throws. Hell, I mean, he's been the 4th most effective scrambler in the NFL this season. So Brock Purdy is getting the job done for the 49ers, but the run game is not, and obviously the defense isn't. My thing is, if the 49ers can establish that leverage with the run game, their whole offense is going to look a whole lot more congruent. Their whole offense is going to click in a fashion that looks like the 49ers of clock gobbling times, right? The 49ers back in, what was it, week 10 of 2021. It's when they played the Rams and they ran the ball 39 times. They converted all those third downs with Garoppolo. They held the football for 40 minutes. That's time of possession for the 49ers, right? That is ball control. That's hogging the ball. That's what they want to do. I think Jacksonville is going to give them a real opportunity to hog the ball in this football game, because you go up and down this defense, as I was just doing, and you see talent, but you also see talent playing cover 3. And as we know, cover 3, the way to beat it, because it's going to give you some of those plays underneath, it's the nickel and dime it. You've got to chop your way downfield. You just have to keep on chopping wood. Get that axe out. Keep chopping wood. 5 to 6 to 7 yards at a time. The second that you get greedy, that's when the Seattle-style cover 3 can come and really, really hurt you. Now, Jacksonville runs a 3-4, not a 4-3. It's different up front, and they could bring in extra linebackers and run blitzes to disrupt the run game. But the back-end coverage is a coverage that is designed to not let up explosives. And if the 49ers try to push this too aggressively downfield, Jacksonville has 11 interceptions this year. It's number 2 in the NFL. They're tied with the 49ers with 11 picks. So this is a Brock Purdy patience game. He's going to have to be patient. He's going to have to take what Jacksonville gives him underneath. And if he could do that in error-free fashion, then I think the 49ers have yards and they have points in them against this Jacksonville defense. There's one statistical weakness for Jacksonville on this side of the ball. It's yards after the catch. They've given up 5.1 yards after every catch on average. Zone defenses can have yak holes, because if you perforate that zone efficiently with a good pass that leads a receiver into more open space, the yak is going to be there. And Deebo Samuel should be returning for this one. Obviously, Christian McCaffrey might be a recipient of many checkdown passes given the strategy to beat cover 3. So if Brock Purdy not only plays safe in this game, but also plays in a way that accentuates yards after the catch, Deebo and Christian McCaffrey can exploit Jacksonville's yak weakness. And I think that's going to be really, really important to beat the cover 3 and to hog the ball the way that the 49ers want to. It's the Trent Baalke revenge game. That's a blast from the past. He's been the GM since 2021, and I will say he's built a nice defense. No question about it. Now, the offense for Jacksonville, that's where things start to take a turn for the worse. Luke Fortner. Did I put Christian Fortner? Let me fix that here on the bottom. It's Luke Fortner out of Kentucky, the center out of Kentucky. He's the main problem point for Jacksonville on this offensive line. He's given up 17 pressures already this season. So I think that the 49ers are going to try to blitz the A-gap, or at least pass rush the A-gap with Javon Hargrave. We've seen Fred Warner successfully blitz the A-gap several times over the past couple of years, ever since the 49ers got a little bit more aggressive. But between Anton Harrison, who's the right tackle, and Luke Fortner, who's the center, Jacksonville hasn't been very good. Walker Little, he's a former tackle at Stanford. He's been hurt. He's the starting left guard, and there's a chance that he's going to play for Jacksonville this week, return from that injury. So we know Cam Robinson's a solid player at left tackle. We know that Walker Little, if he plays, is a solid player at left guard. And we know that Brandon Scherf is solid at right guard. But there have been center issues for Jacksonville, and there have been right tackle issues. And that's where the Chase Young, Nick Bosa tandem comes in. But the 49ers do need to cover. They do need to handle the Christian Kirk, Evan Ingram combination on the other side. I'm not worried if I'm the 49ers about Calvin Ridley. I think that Charvarius Ward, the 49ers top cornerback, or Diamond Lenore, whoever has to cover Ridley, I think they'll be in good position. What I would be worried about as the 49ers is how do you handle the Christian Kirk, the slot receiver, / Evan Ingram, the tight end combination? Because Evan Ingram lines up primarily as a wideout. He's a big body tight end. I do think that this makes sense for Isaiah Oliver. I remember the 49ers' initial plan for Isaiah Oliver was to cover the bigger tight ends when they lined up as receivers. So Ingram, who's the leading wideout for, not technically a wideout, but the leading receiver for this team, technically as a tight end at 6'3", 240. Maybe that's Isaiah Oliver's matchup. And then Christian Kirk, maybe that's the Diamond Lenore matchup where you have the cornerback move in from the outside to the inside. Again, Jacksonville's offense has not been good this year. They've been mediocre, number 13 DVOA, largely because of the struggles up front. They haven't blocked well for Trevor Lawrence. They have the second worst pass block win rate in the league. The 49ers need to put themselves into position to overwhelm an overmatched Jacksonville front. And to do that, you have to take away the efficiency of Trevor Lawrence's quick game. He's got the second fastest average time to throw in football, 2.4. That means you have to cover, and that means that you're relying on a Steve Wilks turnaround if you're the 49ers. And when I talk about the Steve Wilks turnaround, I'm really, really intrigued to see how he's going to try to handle Christian Kirk, who's the smaller, shiftier slot receiver, and Evan Ingram, who is the big tight end. And I think that the 49ers have the matchup tools to do that on the back end. All right, it's time to open this up. 49ers Q&A. Got about 300 of you in the room right now. So go ahead and bring your questions. Chuck wants Oliver on Ingram. I think that's the matchup that Steve Wilks had been talking about through all of training camp, really, ever since we saw Isaiah Oliver lead the field in some situations, but come back onto the field in situations against bigger bodies whenever they lined up in that kind of 12 personnel. Well, you have Oliver on the roster. He's a larger than average nickel back. It's created problems when he's covered shiftier guys because of the lack of change of direction. But Evan Ingram relies on his size more than his shiftiness. So we'll see if Isaiah Oliver takes him in this football game. Christian Kirk has been a problem for opposing defenses. He scored that huge touchdown in the game against the Saints on the Thursday night. And we saw Tyrann Mathieu not be able to cover Christian Kirk on the crossing pattern, and Trevor Lawrence found him. It was a simple crosser, but it was a coverage issue. And Christian Kirk, everybody was laughing at that contract that Jacksonville gave him a couple years ago, $17 million annually, but he can be a problem, especially out of the slot. And he's done some good stuff against the 49ers as a member of the Arizona Cardinals before. So I really do think this is a Diamond Lenore in the slot kind of game for the 49ers. Was Isaiah Oliver working against the top receiver, Evan Ingram, the 6'3" target for Jacksonville. How do I think that Brandon Ayuk is going to be used in this game? He's mostly been the 15-plus yard downfield wide receiver. Chloe says, I'm probably wrong about that, but wondering. Ayuk has been catching a lot of explosive passes. I do think he's been used to stretch the defense. I don't think it's a matter of short versus long passes. I think it's just a matter of, okay, who do the 49ers go to if they need to win against man coverage? And Brandon Ayuk has been by far the best separator in the game this year. If you look at all the separation metrics, it's Ayuk and everybody else. It's really crazy. A couple videos ago, and on Twitter, I shared that graphic. It was an XY graph, and we saw Brandon Ayuk's dot way over on the right. So he's the man coverage beater. That's who the 49ers look for in those specific situations. And even if they're not throwing to Ayuk in those specific situations, his ability to separate this year has drawn extra defensive attention, and they could throw elsewhere. Whether the 49ers go long or short, that depends on a whole host of other factors. Do know that they're going to be playing a lot of zone defense this week. Jacksonville lines up in that cover 3 about 70% of the time. And that means that longer passes, they're probably not going to be as available in this game, right? It's going to be more of a nickel and dime game for the 49ers offense. Now, there's a chance that they run the ball really effectively against the Jaguars, sucker the defense in, and then you hit them over the top. That's within the possible ecosystem of any given game. But just on paper, given the profile of both of these teams, if this goes straight up, if this is a tug of war where neither team is getting a massive advantage, I do think that Jacksonville is more susceptible to the paper cut game rather than the gash game downfield. What's the feel around the locker room with the addition of Chase Young? I think the 49ers are business as usual. They think they should be winning. They obviously haven't won in a few weeks. They're a lot more fresh now coming off the bye week. A lot of guys came back into the building. They're like, oh, we traded for Chase Young over the bye week. That's Chase Young. He's really easy to spot in the locker room. Yesterday, I said, I'm tall. I'm 6'5", right? So it's not often that I think, oh my God, that's a tall player, because normally I'm taller than the guys. But Chase Young is my height, maybe a little bit taller, 6'5", probably a good 270. I think he's listed at 264 pounds. He's a presence in there, and he's got the aura of a star, as he should. He was the defensive rookie of the year. It's only been good football for Chase Young when he has been healthy, and he just had that ACL tear at a really inopportune time, week 10 of the 2021 season. Because of the severity and the timing of that tear, it wiped out most of his 2022. But let's remember that whenever Chase Young has been on the field healthy and in shape, which has been 2020, his rookie season, and the start of this season, 2023 with Washington, he's put up top 6 pass rushing efficiency numbers. And that is a hell of an ad for the 49ers opposite Nick Bosa. And I think there's a lot of confidence coming out of that locker room because of it. Brock Purdy is playing with the same confidence. This commenter says that Brock Purdy, for some reason, is not playing with confidence that he showed over the first 5 games here over the past 3. I don't think that could be further from the truth. Purdy's QBR over the past 3 games has actually been higher than it was through the first 5. The changing variable here has very clearly been the 49ers defense. Again, yes, Brock Purdy's thrown a couple more interceptions, but he's also delivered more explosive passes over the past 3 weeks than he had over the first 5. It's a team sport, and the defense has to help out the offense and the quarterback. You can't continually put Purdy with his back against the wall and expect him to play perfect football. I was talking about it today with Mike. Purdy's only mistake over the first 5 games of the season when the 49ers were in control. So really his only mistake when the 49ers haven't had their backs up against the wall, when they've been controlling game script. The only mistakes came against the Rams when he overthrew a couple of receivers downfield. So, I mean, this is a guy that you can absolutely count on if you're playing good team football around him. And it appears to me that you can count on him to give you a chance, even if you're behind. But nobody wants to play behind in the National Football League. Nobody in the history of the game has wanted to play behind. You want to pair an excellent offense with a good defense. And the 49ers currently have the number 1 offense in the league. Number 15 defense, number 1 offense. I'll let you guess which side of the ball deserves more blame for the 49ers' past 3 losses. Yeah, I don't think I'd be able to be in the 49ers secondary. Not at my height, 6'5.5". I think they'd say I'm a little bit too tall for a cornerback. This is not a must-win game for the 49ers. That term is tossed around way too much. I get it. Mike is just trying to stir the pot here, and I love it. But must-win game means that you win or you have to go home. The 49ers have played must-win games during the regular season in the recent past. 2021 saw a string of them at the end of the year. This is not a must-win yet. It would be really nice to win, and I think the 49ers are itching for a win, but must-win, it's a little bit of a stretch for this game. Matthew says that Deebo Samuel makes everyone look better on offense. Absolutely. Star players make you look better. They elevate everything, and Deebo Samuel absolutely falls in that category. I have a speaking engagement to be at tonight, so I'm just checking the status of the time that I have to leave here. I still have a little bit of time. We're good. We're good on that front. Had to pop open a little bit of a schedule, but we're good, and I'm ready for some more questions. We don't know if Trent Williams is going to play. Trent Williams hasn't practiced yet since that Cleveland game. He was tossing a football around at the start of practice on Monday. He probably won't practice tomorrow because he doesn't practice on Wednesdays. He takes vet days. So we won't get an indication tomorrow. Kyle Shanahan might say something tomorrow, but I doubt that he'll divulge much. It is Thursday, where we're probably going to get a clear indicator of which way this is trending for Trent Williams. What's going to be the secret to shut down the run? Setting firmer edges and then tackling better. The tackling has just not been up to par for the 49ers. That's one area where I think that the fact that they're fresher this week should help a lot coming off of the bye. Because they were lights out tackling, top tackling team in the NFL weeks 1 to 5. And that just plummeted. The quality of tackling plummeted over the most recent 3 games. So one key is going to be freshness. That's going to, I think, help. The pursuit, it's going to help just the willing to get physical. There's a lot of want to that's a part of that, right? And I think the 49ers hope that they've used their bye week to mentally reset. And then, it's related because setting edges, there's also a lot of desire when it comes to setting edges that is necessary. Personnel-wise, the 49ers are better now because they have Chase Young. And I think Chase Young is going to be hungry to prove himself on a new football team. But the edge spot opposite Nick Bosa had been an issue. Back to Drake Jackson getting pancaked by tight end by TJ Hawkinson against the Minnesota Vikings. You can't have that happen if you're trying to defend the run at a high level. So setting the edge and tackling better, both things that are big time mentality tests are going to be important for the 49ers. Why are so many reporters so negative about the 49ers? Probably because it gets clicks. It's an easy way to clicks. I decide to go the truthful way, which is the hard way to get clicks. But I think that the truth ultimately sends the most powerful message. I don't think Greenlaw was fully healthy this last game for sure. And he had been on and off the injury report. He'd been missing some practice. I think he might be the 49ers defensive player that most needed the bye week. He had a big brace over his arm at practice on Monday. I don't think that Charvarius Ward has been bad so far. I think that he's picked up a couple penalties that, it could go either way. You would like to see a couple fewer flags against Charvarius Ward. And obviously the low light play for him happened on that Jordan Addison play before halftime against Minnesota. But if you look at this in the aggregate, I don't think the season has been as good for Mooney Ward as last year's. But he hasn't been the problem, I think, coverage-wise for the 49ers. Let's take a look at it. I think really if you look at individual players who have struggled for this defense, Isaiah Oliver, especially recently, has struggled in coverage. And I think that on the collective, the secondary hasn't been in position enough to stop 2 red-hot quarterbacks in Kirk Cousins and Joe Burrow. But take a look at this. I think that you'll appreciate this player-by-player look. This is from my big defensive breakdown of the 49ers. Charvarius Ward has given up a passer rating of 77.6 into his coverage, which is better than league average. Less than 1 yard per cover snap, which is better than league average. His missed tackle rate is a bit worse than last year, but it's still better than average. He's been solid. So he hasn't been excellent, but he's been solid. I think Deommodore Lenoir has been solid. Hasn't been great, but it's been solid. It's been picked on a little bit more than Charvarius Ward. The true red in this graph is seen in Isaiah Oliver's coverage and in Ambry Thomas's coverage. It's that third corner that Steve Wilks has not been able to properly disguise. And I think that's where opponents have picked on the coverage misalignments the most. Shane doesn't understand why everyone's tripping. Look at the 49ers last 2 seasons and how they started. Yep. Started 3-5 and 3-4. And there they were in the NFC Championship game. Absolutely. I think that's a great point. I think that you have to be very, very reasonable about the fact that the 49ers have been a bad team in October as of late. And they have absolutely turned on the Jets come November. People don't see the big picture. People are often very focused on being prisoners of the moment. And being a prisoner of the moment won't help you understand the natural flow of the 49ers season. They started out red hot and, they went through their normal October struggles. But the good news is they didn't see September struggles this year. And they saw September struggles in 21 and 22. That put them in a hole. This year, they're in a little bit of a hole if you're trying to catch Philadelphia, but it's not a huge one. They still have the ability to catch the Philadelphia Eagles. They control their own destiny as far as that goes, I will predict, because Philadelphia is going to lose, and they have a chance to beat Philadelphia to regain one of those games. So the 49ers are in much better position than they were over the past 2 seasons. And those past 2 seasons, they put themselves in a spot to make a run, and they made a run. This year, they want to make a deeper run, so they're in better position at the start. Big picture, all looks good for the 49ers. Chuck in the 559, which is my home area code, thinks that the Eagles will lose a few more. The 49ers have a terrible rest disadvantage this year. This is what Aaron's talking about. The 49ers played the Bengals last week when the Bengals were coming off a bye and the 49ers weren't. This week, the 49ers are coming off a bye, but so is Jacksonville. So they don't have a net rest advantage over the Jaguars. The Browns were also coming off a bye when they played the 49ers. I think the 49ers are minus 20-something in net rest day disadvantage this year, which is a disadvantage the 49ers were not happy about when the schedule came out. The Cowboys should have beaten the Eagles, but they didn't beat the Eagles because the Cowboys pulled Cowboys at the end of that game. That was a crazy game. It was interesting to watch all these games, though. I don't think that Juszczyk is being underutilized. I think Juszczyk is a huge part of the 49ers running game. I think that they have so many weapons in the pass game that you're not going to make him the top read. You're not going to make him one of the top 3 reads, because you'd rather have the ball in the hands of Christian McCaffrey or Brandon Ayuk to break some tackles. So I think that Kyle Juszczyk is doing what Kyle Juszczyk should be doing, and he's been a Swiss Army knife for the 49ers, often behind the scenes. All right, everybody, thank you for joining. Everybody also make sure that you check out the 49ers scouting report that I made sure to prepare for you in terms of their matchup with Jacksonville. Tossing that onto the screen one more time. Did a nice video traveling around all of San Francisco today, stitched it together to help preview this game. And what I'm trying to do is just try to bridge the gap between the 49ers' most recent game against Cincinnati and this one against Jacksonville. There's a long time over the bye. But hopefully we've done that. Tomorrow, back to practice at Levi's Stadium. 3 more days for the 49ers practicing at the facility before they fly out to the East Coast. All right, everybody, check it out. Like and subscribe. I will talk to you very soon.